I would see Kansas City as a team being on the outside looking in.
That's spicy. Having a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo on there could be a benefit, but have they kind of burned that bridge? Welcome to 30 Minutes of Football with Legit Football. I am your host, Brian McFadden. It is Friday, August 5th, 2022. We had an actual football game yesterday, if you can call it that. And I've got my friend back again, the pro football demon, Rich Jodice. Rich, how you doing today? We have football to talk about.
Oh my God, this is like the day after Christmas Day, and then we have Christmas Day coming up again. So I'm very excited.
It's like the first day of like the 12 days of Christmas. I wouldn't call that Christmas. If that's what I'm getting Christmas morning, I'm pretty disappointed.
Well, yeah. Well, you don't know how. I mean, I love Christmas so much. So that was. I mean, I don't know. That was phenomenal. Just seeing players on the field in actual football uniforms.
Agreed. The Jaguars look like the Jaguars, even though they didn't really have a lot of starters in. We saw Josh Jacobs look like he was on pace for a 30-carry game. I don't know what that means. But
and Daniel Carlson, fantasy stud Daniel Carlson, kicking field goals. We should flex out kickers.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So there you go. That's the star of the game. But as you know the format. We're just going to jump into it. We're going to ask each other questions, neither of which we have shared with each other. As usual, as the guest, you have automatically won the coin toss. So I'm going to ask you, do you want to receive the first question or kick and ask the first question?
I'll receive the first question.
Okay, great. So if our timer is ready, 30 minutes of football with Legit Football starts now. So we're going to go ahead and kick it off. There's been a lot of stuff in the news lately, including in the Legit Football, I believe the past 2 days, about Matthew Stafford's arm injury. So this is what seems like a baseball pitcher's injury. It's an elbow thing. It doesn't affect his ability to throw. And apparently it was actually something that has carried on from last season. And it's just something that never showed up on the injury report. But it is something that bothers him. And it's something that the Rams have had to make a plan for as far as giving him days off. John Wolford has been taking reps while Stafford's taking time off. McVay has admitted that it might go into the regular season. My question to you is this something that the Rams should actually be concerned about? What is your level of concern for this Matthew Stafford arm injury?
On a scale of 1 to 10 right now, I think it's about a 5. I think we saw something similar with Dak Prescott last year, and they were saying the same thing. It was a baseball type injury. And they brought in somebody from the Texas Rangers, I believe, that helped Dak out a little bit. But week 1, I mean, he threw for 400 yards. So I think this is something in terms of if I'm looking at fantasy players, I'm not shying away from Cooper Kupp. I'm not dropping him. Maybe it might have me drop guys like Allen Robinson down a little bit just in case, depending on who else I can get around there. But I don't know that I'm that concerned just yet. If this lingers, if we keep hearing rumblings about this as we get deeper into the preseason, then I'd be a lot more concerned. And this would obviously pave the way for the Arizona Cardinals or the San Francisco 49ers to take over that division.
Yeah, one of the things that at first I thought it was absolutely nothing, whatever, just lingering pain in the offseason. But the fact that it keeps coming up and the fact that McVay isn't just shooting it down and saying, no, it's real. We're keeping him on a pitch count. We have a plan. They have said there hasn't been a setback. So this is just kind of part of the process. But the fact that he's mentioning it and said, yeah, I could go into the regular season, that's something that's at least on my radar. I'm with you. I'm not changing my draft strategy for fantasy based on this, but it is something I'm now actively monitoring. If we continue to get this news, I will say, based on camp reports, John Wolford has actually looked fairly sharp. Right. We've seen him in limited action before, and he hasn't looked half bad. Allen Robinson has been lighting up camp. Tutu Atwell has been making plays, and Cooper Kupp is Cooper Kupp. But it is at least something that I am monitoring. And as we get close to the regular season throughout the preseason, and the Rams don't play their starters in the preseason. That's just the thing McVay does.
Yeah.
But getting close to week 1, I do want to kind of monitor injury reports and see if this is something that's still lingering.
And the good thing with this team is when you have Sean McVay, when you have this type of talent surrounding your quarterback, obviously you don't want to lose Matthew Stafford, but I wouldn't I wouldn't just think this team is going to fall on their faces, and it's not going to be a situation like we saw with Seattle when they lost Russell Wilson. They couldn't move the football. I think they would still move the football, maybe not at the same level, but I don't think it would be all that concerning. They might not be in the Super Bowl bubble. When we get to the playoffs, we might not be thinking that they're, if Stafford's not there, but right now, like I said, it's about a 5. I need to see this linger a little bit more for me to start being, moving it up to a 7 or an 8.
Yeah, I'll agree with that. 5, maybe bordering on 6 for me.
Right.
Next question from you.
Next question from me. Okay. So the NFC North, how do you see this playing out? I'm going to frame this in this way. Usually about roughly half the teams that have made the playoffs the year prior don't make the playoffs the following season. This is a Green Bay Packers question, I guess. Do you think the Packers still own that division? And do you think they're a lock to make the playoffs?
Well, I don't think anybody's ever a lock to make the playoffs just because you've got injury concerns. You've got, like I said, there's so much variance and discrepancy year to year when it comes to the NFL. But when we have to look at, even without Davante Adams, what Matt LaFleur has been able to do there as far as, going to nearly the Super Bowl and the NFC Championship in multiple seasons, going deep in the playoffs last year. They still have Aaron Rodgers. They still have one of, if not the most physically gifted quarterbacks the NFL has ever seen. They still have Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon. They still have what could be a top 5 defense. The biggest question mark is really just their pass catchers. Is that enough to completely knock them out of the playoff picture? I don't think so. I know, and I want you to expand on this, that you have mentioned multiple times, you actually have the Vikings winning the division.
I do. I have the Vikings, yeah.
I want to hear more about that. But I can't, even if that happens, and I've picked Green Bay. I do have Minnesota in the playoffs, but I've picked the Packers just to win again, just because they're too well coached. The quarterback position is just about as good as it gets, and they do have a stellar defense. But I just can't, even if the Vikings do win, I can't see the Packers missing the playoffs completely unless it goes catastrophically wrong. Really, unless Rodgers gets injured. I think if you have Aaron Rodgers on your team, the rest of the talent around him is so good. How could they not get in the 7 seed and when there's 7 playoff teams? But let's hear your take. What are your thoughts on the NFC North, and why specifically are you picking the Vikings to win the division?
I'm picking the Vikings because I know Kirk Cousins has had issues in big games before, but I think he's going to be, if we're going to unlock Kirk Cousins, I'm going to say, whatever that means. But I think with Kevin O'Connell, we're going to see a different Kirk Cousins this season. I think they have the talent there. And again, he is more than a capable quarterback. He's a guy that I have, right outside that top 10 range, maybe 11, 12, right around there, that can creep into the top 10. And with the talent surrounding him and what I think they're going to do on offense, we don't know yet. But the fact that Mike Zimmer's not there anymore and you have Kevin O'Connell there, that excites me. They're defensively, they're stout. The issue that I have with Green Bay is, again, I've mentioned this, the receivers. They can have a great running game, but if Rodgers doesn't have that guy that he can lean on, that concerns me. If they're playing from behind, sometimes he like I said, his body language and everything like that, he just seems a little defeated. And he's not like Tom Brady. He's not one of these guys that's going to run over to the sideline and try to fire everybody up. He's not a guy who's going to be down by 10 and just go there and just get everybody rearing to get into the game and attack. So I think that could be a contagious attitude. And if that happens early on in the season, I think that can linger throughout a few games. And when you're in the NFL, every game counts, obviously. You start losing some of these games that you should win. I know they played the Jets. The Jets have beaten some good teams last year that they shouldn't have beaten. If they lose some of those games, they could dip down in that division. And I think the Lions just play hard, and they have talent, and they love Dan Campbell. And I always call them the best worst team that I saw play last season. They were just exciting to watch. They have fire. So when I look at it from that aspect, I think the Lions can creep up and maybe hit 10, 11 wins and sneak up on the Packers and maybe, creep into the playoffs too.
So my next question, we're going to jump over to the AFC. We had an article actually also today in Legit Football About the Broncos running backs. So there's been a lot of last year. It was pretty much as evenly as you can get. It was basically 50-50 with how they divided between Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon. They re-signed Melvin Gordon, but a lot of people thought, hey, Javonte Williams, this is his year. We mentioned a beat reporter saying that he thinks the season will play out as a 70-30 split, but we're seeing so far in camp that it's more 55-45, and it's still very even. So my question to you, from a fantasy football perspective, what's the better value? Right now, Javonte Williams is running back 9 as far as average draft position. He's going in the second round or maybe even late first round if you're in like a 14-team league. While Melvin Gordon is all the way back at rounds 8 or 9. So there's a huge difference of value. So not who's going to be better, but which value do you like better between Williams and Gordon?
I like the Gordon value better. Yeah, and I think we're going to see Russell Wilson finally use running backs in the passing game, which he hasn't done in the past. And I don't know if that's because he doesn't target them or just because Pete Carroll doesn't like to utilize running backs. Probably a Carroll thing, right? So Russell Wilson, I'm not too concerned about Nathaniel Hackett being a first-year head coach. I think Russell is going to go off script if he needs to. I mean, it's so significant bringing in a quarterback like that. So if this is a 55-45, Gordon is a much better value at that point. We've seen Gordon do it before. We've seen him be significant before. And bringing in a quarterback like that, sometimes when you have these vets that you think are washed up, that ignites new life into them and rejuvenates their career. So, yeah, I love that value.
Yeah, I'm completely with you. Not that, and this is not a knock on Williams, but it's more that they really like Melvin Gordon. He's looked strong in camp. He has the experience. And as far as pure ability, they like him slightly better as a pass catching back than Williams, even though I know Williams had some really good games as a pass catcher. So I just can't see them just completely ignoring him in the offense. Got just over 5 minutes left until halftime. Next question comes from you.
Okay, this is a fantasy football question. So if somebody comes up to you and says, I love the NFL, I've watched it for years, but this is I'm dipping my toe into the fantasy pond for the first time. If you have one piece of advice for me heading into my draft, what would that piece of advice be?
Just general advice, like what to know?
As far as draft strategy, I guess, we're building their roster.
So the first round has to be a slam dunk pick. Now, nobody can predict the future. There's injuries and all that, but I tend to be much less risk averse in the first round. Most draft winners, it's all about what you do in the middle rounds, and it's all about you do at the very, very top. Second and third, there's just so many players that are, I don't want to say interchangeable, but they can kind of move up the board based on the strategy you do. But that first pick has to be a home run. So that's why players like, we actually see in the comments, somebody mentioned CMC first. I love the talent, but to me personally, the risk that comes with somebody who has played 3 games over the past 2 seasons is too high with where he's going. First pick, second pick overall, because if he gets injured again, especially because drafts are snake style, so you're not picking again until the end. Let's say you're in a 12-team league. You pick first or second. You're not picking again until like 23, 24. That first pick has to be a slam dunk. So I'm not going for a risk-averse player. I'm going for a guy with positional scarcity, so it's going to be a running back if I can get one of those top running backs. If you're 1 overall, I'm taking Jonathan Taylor all day long. And then really use the late rounds as a chance to take flyers on players that maybe, because they're all hit or miss at that round, So that is actually where you do take the opposite. Take a guy who's coming back from an injury. Take a guy if he falls like Allen Robinson, where he's just off a lot of people's radar. I mean, he's getting back on radars because he's having an amazing camp. But this is a guy who has the talent to be a top 10 wide receiver, and yet he just, Chicago stopped using him. He had contract disputes there. But he, especially with Cooper Kupp taking a lot of the coverage, Allen Robinson could be a league winner. So that's the best advice. I'll kind of 2-part that. Really dial in on who you're going to pick with that first pick. Have a strategy ahead of time. Mock draft. I'll throw a third thing in there. Do mock drafts. That is crucial to understand where you are in your draft order and what kind of players you're tending to see. Because you don't want to strategize for Jonathan Taylor if you've got the 7th overall pick. It is not going to happen. No. So that's my overarching fantasy football advice. Great question. Okay. All right, just over 2.5 minutes left. We quickly talk about Diontae Johnson. Just signed an extension with the Steelers. He's kind of the last wide receiver from that group to sign. I just want to talk about the value of the deal. So he signed it's worth a little over $18 million per season. But what's notable is that was anywhere between $5 to $7 million less per year than all of the other wide receivers. The lowest one was Terry McLaurin, who signed for about $23 million. Is he underpaid? Is Diontae Johnson underpaid for Pittsburgh?
I don't think so. I think we are going to. I think this wide receiver bubble is going to burst at some point, and it's going to start to normalize a little bit. I mean, this isn't sustainable. What's going on with these receivers? If you're looking at it through the lens of, well, look what Christian Kirk was paid, then yes, he's underpaid. But Diontae Johnson is a guy who has had issues with drops in the past. Mike Tomlin has benched him in the past. And, now his quarterback situation, not that it was fantastic with Ben Roethlisberger. We don't know what to expect. We're hearing Mitchell Trubisky is completing 7 of 20.
Yeah. Not good looking for Trubisky.
Yeah. Right. So what is from a production standpoint, if you're hearing that, and then your other option is either Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, his numbers are not going to really strike you as something that, oh wow, yeah, this guy should be one of the top paid receivers in the league. I love his skill set. I mean, the guy gets amazing separation. He's a fantastic receiver. Again, he has had troubles with drops in the past, but I think when I saw that, I thought, okay, that sounds about right for Diontae Johnson. Again, I think the bubble is going to burst. Do you like that deal?
Well, for Pittsburgh, it's great. I actually think he could have gotten paid more if he tried to go to a different team, but that's tricky. He's got to prove himself. He's sitting in at camp. Like he kind of didn't have a choice to re-sign at this point. But I think, if you're picking a winner between the two, and this is par for the course for Pittsburgh. They don't give out these massive contracts. They a lot of times they don't give out second and third contracts. They have a plan. They stick to it. They have been competitive for basically 2 decades, so you can't really argue with the approach. But I think Pittsburgh got a deal. I think Diontae Johnson maybe not be worth $25 million Tyreek Hill type of money, but I think he's worth a little more than 18. He should have at least got in that $20 million range, in my opinion.
Well, it can always be reworked at some point.
That's true as well. So that is our halftime sound. So as always, quick reminder to everybody, if you're not already subscribed, go over to legitfootball.com, guys. Sign up. It is 100% free. If you follow Pro Football Demon on TikTok, you know that he's made a couple videos for us. But he's a reader. I'm a reader. Obviously, it's just, if you want your NFL news now for training camp, but we're going to have some awesome content coming out during the season as well. It is always 100% free. legitfootball.com. Sign up. Enter your email. Good to go. Rich, let them know where they can find you.
You can find me at Pro Football Demon on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. Give me a follow.
Yeah, absolutely. I love his stuff. Even if he wasn't working with us, I'd be following him and really liking and retweeting all his stuff. That is it. We are having a quick halftime. We're going to get back on into it. Is your team ready for the second half, Rich?
Oh, we're prepared. Don't worry about that.
Great. So let's go ahead and jump back into it. The next question comes from you.
Okay. Of the rookie receivers this year, if there is someone that maybe they don't match that Justin Jefferson type ascension or that Jamar Chase type ascension, but a guy who would get close to that, who do you think that could be this season?
I really like Drake London. He was kind of my number one wide receiver. He also landed in, as far as opportunity, a very good spot. They've basically got Kyle Pitts and then Bryan Edwards is their next guy. But from a talent level, a lot of people compare him to Mike Evans, which is a very fair and favorable comparison. But he actually was very much a highly targeted. He was not just a 50-50 guy. He was not just a red zone guy. He had games with USC where he was targeted 15 times a game, and he was able to just sustain where everybody knew he was getting the ball, and he was still able to produce. And all the reports I've seen is that he is very much looking the part in camp so far. I like Garrett Wilson. I don't know that he's transcendent, the guy that's just gonna, like Jefferson, just be a top 10 wide receiver right off the block. Jamar Chase, top 5 wide receiver. I don't know if he has that kind of talent. I don't think Drake London quite has that kind of talent. I don't think there is a wide receiver in this class that can really transcend and just be at the top of the entire league from the get-go, but if I'm picking somebody, if I'm putting my money on somebody, I just like London's game. I like his ability to go up and win the contested balls. I like his size. I like his ability to be a number one target reliably. And I like his opportunity. I think he's going to get a lot of passes thrown his way. Even if you look at Wilson, we've seen a lot about how Elijah Moore is lighting up camp. So I don't know that he's going to get the same kind of attention. Chris Olave maybe, but if Michael Thomas is back, and we're actually kind of seeing he might be back, I have my doubts. I just don't think, whereas Drake London is, I think, already the default wide receiver one in Atlanta. So that would be my vote.
I would, I wouldn't disagree with that. I think Kyle Pitts is really the wide receiver one there. And if I had to pick a guy, I think I would pick Chris Olave because, we don't know what's going on with Michael Thomas. I actually think Chris Olave was the better of the two between him and Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson will make those highlight reel catches, but I think Chris Olave overall was just the more reliable receiver. And I think we've talked about Jameis Winston in the past. I'm not a big believer in Jameis Winston, but we know he can put up numbers, he can launch the ball, and Chris Olave is perfect for that type of quarterback. So if there is a guy that I think can, again, not reach that type of level, but really outshine the others in this class, I think it's Olave.
All right. So let's go over, we'll make this a nice quick question. AFC South, Jacksonville Jaguars. Vegas currently has them at 6.5 wins, over under.
Over. I think 8-9 wins.
8-9 wins. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I know we were looking at backups, but expand on why you think that's the case. Why are you higher on Jacksonville?
I think matching Doug Peterson with Trevor Lawrence was phenomenal. If they have Travis Etienne and James Robinson, I mean, that could be one of the best 1-2 punches in the league. Christian Kirk is no slouch at receiver. I don't think he deserved that contract that he received, but and their schedule isn't hard. It's not a tough schedule. There are teams that I look on there and I say, I think Jacksonville can beat them. And we've seen Trayvon Walker. We saw Trayvon Walker last night. Again,
got a sack.
On
the stat sheet.
If he can pressure the quarterback a little bit, that's obviously going to help out the defense. So I don't think they're going to be that pushover team that they were. I think that they've gotten all those concerns kind of shoved aside. Good coaching now, and I think they can surprise us.
Yeah, I think they've done enough to at least get to 7 wins. I don't know if I'm ready to book them for 8 or certainly 9 wins, which would be a winning season.
I have hot takes, man. I have Detroit at 11 wins.
I love it. That's why we get you on here, man. I love the hot takes. But I like Doug Peterson. All reports are that Trevor Lawrence is really making a nice jump. I just think a lot of those Jaguars were in such an awful situation with Meyer last year that can only go up from here.
Well, I have a Miami Dolphins question for you, my friend.
Bring it.
Miami Dolphins. Okay, so much like Philadelphia, Miami is in that situation with a quarterback that they are not sure is going to be the guy. Philadelphia and Miami had the draft capital to address that in next year's draft to move up and grab a guy that they wanted to. Miami no longer has that option because they had the first rounds are taken away from them. So let's say Tua is not the guy. It's just glaring. He's not the guy. They need to move on. What do they do at quarterback at that point? How do they address that position next season?
Yeah, it becomes problematic with the loss of that first round pick. I actually talked about this with Ari on Tuesday's show because unless Trey Lance is off or they suffer a ton of injuries, the 49ers are at least going to be in the playoffs. So you're talking about, and that's the first rounder that they have. So they had two, they lost their own pick, which between the two was more likely to be a higher pick. And they're only left with San Francisco's, which could be anywhere, honestly, they have the talent to win the Super Bowl. It could be 32 or it could be 23, 22. But still, you're not going to get one of those top tier quarterbacks, even with the deeper quarterback class. That the tendency in these drafts is for the top quarterbacks to go in the top 10. You do have some other, they still have an additional second round pick, additional third round pick. So you got a little bit of ammunition, but I don't think it's going to be enough to move up into the top 10. So then what are you doing? You're looking at free agency. Tom Brady might have been an option, but
I don't think so anymore.
Is it now too embarrassing with all this come out? Is that a likely thing? I think they're in real trouble if Tua doesn't, produce. So it could be a thing where the options aren't great and they just have to give Tua ride it out for his final season. This is his third year. Next year will be his fourth year rookie contract. They don't have to extend or get the fifth year option. So I think at this point, I think it would have been different if they still had that second first. But I think at this point, unless he's just an abstract disaster, which I think even at his worst, Tua hasn't been a disaster, they're going to be playing with Tua next year with just an eye on maybe the 2024 draft as the means to really address their quarterback position.
Let's say Tua gets, I don't want to predict an injury, but let's say he gets injured. Okay. And Danny Duds is available next season. What do you think the chances are of the Dolphins bringing him in?
I think very little. I think you're more likely to see Jimmy Garoppolo on the Dolphins than you are to see Daniel Jones. I think, first of all, they have Teddy Bridgewater, who is shown to at least be a capable spot starter and has started a number of games for Denver, went undefeated in a stretch with New Orleans in the past. So they're not really pressed as some of the other teams to get an additional quarterback. But if he is injured and they need someone else, and Teddy has shown to have his own injury concerns, I think Jimmy Garoppolo makes a lot more sense than any of the other quarterbacks that are out there, like a potential Daniel Jones down the line.
Okay.
All right. So my next question, we're going to stick in the AFC South after that. Jacksonville, you seem to think they might have 9 wins. So let's look at the entire division.
Okay.
Who will win the AFC South in 2022? Who do you have?
The Colts. I have the Colts winning that. Yeah.
Okay.
I think Matt Ryan was a fantastic addition. And we've mentioned this before. A veteran quarterback of that caliber going to a team that's got a good roster, that's well coached. We've seen it with Tom Brady. We've seen it with Matthew Stafford. I'm not saying they're going to win a Super Bowl with Indianapolis. He's going to win a Super Bowl with Indianapolis. But based on that division, I think they can easily win that division. They came close to making the playoffs last year with Carson Wentz,
right,
who I think is far and away below Matt Ryan. I would much rather have Carson Wentz. I like them winning that division. They're going to run the ball, a lot of ball control, and I think Michael Pittman is going to pop with Matt Ryan throwing the football to him.
We had an article in today's Legit Football talking about both Alec Pierce, who is their rookie wide receiver out of Cincinnati, who has been consistently running with the first team and been impressive, and that Pittman is just ready for that third-year leap. And when you have such an upgrade at quarterback with Matt Ryan, I'm in agreement with you. I picked the Colts. I picked the Colts to win last year. I didn't know they were going to completely just I actually predicted them to win, but they had a rough start, but they still should have made the playoffs. It's just a bad into the season. But yeah, I've had the Colts winning this year, and I have the Titans not making it at all.
Same with the Titans, by the way. I'm gonna stay in the AFC East. I don't know what the Patriots are doing this offseason. So they have Matt Patricia as their offensive coordinator, or Joe Judge. They didn't really bring in any playmakers. They brought in Devontae Parker. I thought they would address defense with that first pick in the NFL draft, and they went Cole Strange, a guy they could have gotten way later. So I'm a little confused about what the approach is. Do you think Bill Belichick just thinks he's so brilliant that nothing he does matters? Or do you think he has faith in Matt Jones to be a poor man's version of Tom Brady, where, well, he can get us 4 yards if we need it. He can get us 4 yards at a time if we need it. With this running game, we're in a 3rd-and-2 situation. I trust that no matter who's calling the plays, he's going to complete high percentage passes like that.
I think this is 100% a reflection on his belief in his own abilities and has nothing to do with anyone else on that roster. You can just see with what he's done with the coaching staff. You mentioned bringing Joe Judge back, Matt Patricia, but he has not named an offensive coordinator. He has not named a defensive coordinator. He has not named who will call plays on the offense. Belichick, as great of a coach as he is, has always been known more of a defensive coach. And both Matt Patricia on the defensive side, Joe Judge on the offensive side. But I just think everything they've done has showcased, like, hey, we're the Patriots. We have Bill Belichick. We believe in what we're doing. I think it's to their detriment, and I think that this will be the year where it finally doesn't work. And this is not a knock on Mac Jones. I just think that they're going to really miss Josh McDaniels. I actually like the way the Raiders offense looked last night, and they only had one starter playing, if you want to consider Josh Jacobs a starter. So I think that is going to be a huge loss, and the fact that he didn't really fill that, and the fact that he hasn't done anything to get additional playmakers outside of Devontae Parker, who they got cheap because of his injury concerns, and all indications that he's been really good in camp. But yeah, and then especially on the defensive side of the ball, where they're known, they just clearly think that their coaching ability is going to just trump anything else they do on the personnel side, and that only gets you so far. You still need the talent, even if you're able to coach up the talent more than most coaches, like Belichick is. How do you replace a Dante Hightower? How do you replace J.C. Jackson?
Not with Malcolm Butler.
Right, exactly. Super Bowl hero. Okay, but Butler was close to retirement.
Yeah.
When he was with the Titans recently and the Cardinals. So I just have trouble seeing that. I definitely don't have them making the playoffs, and I don't even have them really flirting with the playoffs. I don't think any Belichick team will ever go like 3-14. But I could see this being a year where they get 6 wins. Maybe 7 wins.
You think they finish last in that division? You think that's a possibility? You think that belongs to the Jets? And be nice.
I'm not ready to pick the Jets ahead of the Patriots yet.
Come on.
I would like to. Honestly, I would like to see the Jets finish 3rd and the Patriots finish 4th. But we just have, reports on Zach Wilson in camp haven't been stellar just yet. I love what the Jets did in this draft. I love seeing what Carl Lawson is going to do coming back from his injury. I think they have made some great personnel moves. I like Saleh as a coach. I'm not sold on Zach Wilson. Now, if he makes a leap, I will say it is in the realm of possibility for the Jets to finish ahead of the Patriots, and nothing would make me happier.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about Kyle Pitts. We got just under 3 minutes left. My question is, I'll give you the ADP right now is tight end 3, so we're going to do from a fantasy angle again. Late 2nd, early 3rd is where his average draft position is going. Where are you drafting Kyle Pitts? Do you think that's about right? If you are in the middle of the 2nd round, are you jumping on that, or do you think there's a little bit of a risk because he's still a tight end?
I am jumping on Kyle Pitts, and I actually reached for him last year in a few leagues, keeper leagues, dynasty leagues, because I think having that – I've had Travis Kelce in the past, and I held on to him. Having that type of
Let's talk about
player,
redraft. I should have specified 100% dynasty leagues, no brainer. In a redraft league, people are just drafting for that one season. Late 2nd, early 3rd. How do you like that draft position?
I would probably, if it was early 3rd, I would do. I think it's a no-brainer. Because I mean, he didn't get in the end zone last year, but he still had over 1,000 yards for a tight end. And we don't know what this. I am not so down on Marcus Mariota as a quarterback. I think he's a capable quarterback that just has been plagued with injuries in the past. So I do think they're going to lean on him. The guy's a playmaker. I mean, he's going to get the ball. He's going to make a play with it. What did he have? 1 touchdown last year?
I think he had 2.
1 or 2.
Yeah.
I expect that number to go up, whether it doubles or triples, who knows? But I think we can see better numbers than he had last year. Again, who's his competition in that passing game? You have a rookie, so they're gonna lean on him. They're gonna be playing from behind a lot. He's gonna get his receptions. In PPR, I might even go into the 2nd round and grab him. Again, it depends on who's around him at that point, but I don't think that's as crazy as it may seem. People like to look at tight end and say, oh, well, yeah, if you don't get one of those top 2 guys, if you get one of these question mark guys, that can be problematic for your team. And I agree with that to an extent, but when you have a guy that's got this much potential to just put up big monster weeks, that's so intriguing to me, and that can really give you an advantage on your fantasy team.
And not a ton of competition for targets. We were talking about Drake London earlier as an opportunity. It's the same thing with him. Pitts has been dominating in camp. One of our stories in legitfootball.com, we said that. So you got a guy who's dominating. You got a guy who's going to get a lot of targets. You got a guy who should have caught more touchdowns last year. Yeah, I'm with you. I would say mid-2nd if you can get him.
Yeah.
All right, that is it. The clock has run out. The game is up. We are now at our post-game press conference. Pro Football Demon, how do you feel your team did?
I feel great. I think we did okay. I do have a non-monetary wager I would like to propose to you based on one of the questions I asked you, and you being a Dolphins fan. Well, I think if the Tua thing doesn't work out, I do think Danny Duds, as you call him, might be in the realm of possibility next season. I think he could be. If that happens, which maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, I propose that you have to get yourself a Danny Dimes jersey and wear it on 2 episodes.
Accepted. Challenge accepted without question. If Daniel Jones is on the Miami Dolphins at any point in the 2023 season, I will buy the jersey, an authentic NFL jersey, and I will wear it for 2 of my 30 Minutes of Football episodes at least.
Okay, and now you have until the next time I am on. You can propose a bet to me if you would like, because it's not fair to just propose something to you and then just...
Agreed. I love this idea. This is the best post-game press conference we've had yet on 30 Minutes of Football. You heard it here first. I am accepting Rich's Daniel Jones to the Dolphins challenge.
Oh,
I will
God,
come
I
up
hope
with
so.
my own and bring it back to you the next time that you are going to be on, and we're going to have you on a lot. Thanks as always, guys, for listening, for watching. This has been 30 Minutes of Football. Thanks to Pro Football Demon. Check out his stuff, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, anywhere you can find him. And we'll see you on Tuesday. Take care.
I would see Kansas City as a team being on the outside looking in.
That's spicy. Having a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo on there could be a benefit, but have they kind of burned that bridge?